Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. Today is the first day of Washington Commanders' off-season program, their workouts. It's almost like coming back to school. So we thought that we would bring in the draft guru, the teacher, the professor himself, Mr. Adam Aniba, one of our first guests on this podcast. How are you doing on this beautiful Monday evening, sir?
Great, man. It's been a while. Good to chop it up again, guys.
Oh, no worries, brother. Of course, it's always a good time to be able to talk to you, Adam. But first thing, I feel like this news got swept under the wayside, but Hendon Hooker, the quarterback from Tennessee, is in Washington today doing a interview with them, a top 30 meeting with the Commanders. What do you think of Hendon Hooker? Do you find it to be a coincidence?
No, I think during this time it's just an opportunity to get pick their brain a little more, because also I think what fans should keep in mind at 16, I do think there can be 3 to 4 quarterbacks off the board. There's going to be some teams may be considering. I think it's a little early for Hooker considering the injury, but it could be trade bait. Because I do think we saw last year Washington will definitely be in play to trade back depending on who's on the board. So I think they're doing their due diligence, but I'd be shocked if they take a quarterback anywhere in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I think that would make sense too. It's just with all the stock that they seem to have put into Sam and Jacoby Brissett this offseason, it seems like that. I don't think that they're going that way that early. But Adam, we're going to enter your wheelhouse here. All right. You are a small school scouting guru. And every year it seems to be like there's these offensive linemen that come from a smaller school that go on day 3 that always end up, contributing and playing decent. Who are some guys to look out for this year, or a guy or two?
I'm actually, as far as the small school guys, there's a couple maybe undrafted. Unfortunately, this year, because I put out a lot of reports on offensive linemen this year, considering Washington's needs. But I'm just trying to get his name. He's from Old Dominion. The only issue is he's a tackle, because that's a lot of the guys I was looking at.
Right.
But they're talking about him.
Salvadori or something? That's the dude. When we watched Kuntz, he popped out a little bit.
Yeah. He's probably the main one that I see, but they're talking about him, potentially sliding inside. And I watched a couple games. I didn't get to see as much as I wanted to, but I think that's a guy you're looking at, late day 3. There might be somebody that pulls the trigger late 4, early 5. But the small school guys, there's a couple that I like this year, but they're on the defensive side of the ball.
Is it Tyrann Hunt?
I'm not sure. I'm not.
He's
not
the
really
tackle at ODU. He used to play at Maryland.
That's another
something.
Dudes from Red Zone.
No, it's
podcast.
Salvadori though.
Yeah, right. Salvadori. He's pretty athletic, I think, too.
Yeah, shout out to dudes from obviously the Red Zone in the podcast lab. Obviously had him on his podcast last night, so a lot of credit to him. It was a great interview with Tyrann Hunt, the tackle from Old Dominion. Sorry, Hall.
Nice. So good. So with Antonio Gibson being in the final year of his contract, and J.D. McKissick, did J.D. McKissick retire? He retired, right?
No, they released him.
They released him out. They were talking about maybe he retired because of his neck.
Yeah.
So anyway, it looks like Washington might be in the market for a running back on day 3. Who are some guys that Washington might be interested in for the running back position on day 3?
Yeah, the 2 guys I've wrote about so far. I'm hoping to get another one out before the draft, but the 2 running backs I have are Tulane's Tyjae Spears and East Carolina's Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
Both are just supreme route runners. When you're looking for a change up, especially what they have in Robinson, that's what I'm looking at. And, like you said, AG, I think if he has a great year, he's gone. If he doesn't do well, he's gone. We see how running backs are undervalued. So I think that, that maybe that 3rd round pick, it depends, if it's the late round or they get an extra one in a trade back. But I do like Tyjae Spears in that round. Again, he's one of those guys, you look at his size, 5'9", 204. You think, he's only going to be good as a pass catcher. But, man, just going up the middle, the shake that he's got, the ability that he has to break tackles and shake defenders, it was really impressive. And like I mentioned, Keaton Mitchell, he's from ECU. That's another guy, actually probably a better receiver, just slightly over Spears. So he's a guy that you want on obvious passing downs. And both of those guys, what I love about him, you can slide him into the slot. You get him out wide, but they can run between the tackles. Just, like as far as Mitchell, though, he's a lot smaller, 5'8", 179. So I think that's why that puts him in that.
Too.
Yeah. That was what I was getting to, that both of them actually have experience with that. So I think if you're looking for a running back in that late third, more likely fourth round range, that's a spot where you want to get somebody who can play special teams. And that's why those are the two I hit first. And I was trying to mention the third guy I'm going to hopefully write about is Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State. He's another guy that really think he can be a high end returner. So again, you can see, obviously I've got, a specific type in mind when I'm looking for Washington. I'm not looking for those big bruising backs. And, I respect a lot of the fans that love the idea of going Bijan Robinson at 16. That to me is as unlikely as they go quarterback in the first round, because I think they really like what Robinson can do. They're going to put a lot of eggs in their basket, Ron will. And I think it just makes so much sense to get a running back, one of these guys on day 3 if they're available. But they're just 3 of a bunch of other good ones that are going to be available in that range.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't trade up for Bijan Robinson.
Definitely not.
Adam, next question for you. Based on this draft and where you think this talent lies, or where in the projection that you have, where it could go in the first 3 rounds, what positions can Washington not leave those first 3 rounds without addressing?
Yeah, I believe, everyone talks about offensive line, and I agree. In that first round, I don't think you're going to be looking at an interior guy in that top 20 pick. So you're either looking off offensive tackle. And, there's a couple guys that'll be on the board, but it depends how, Broderick Jones, everyone's talked about Paris Johnson from Ohio State, 2 guys I really love. But then you start to go a little farther back, and then there's going to be guys from Tennessee. Just my mind right now. Darnell Wright. I know you've talked about him. What I like about him is you're not going to really line up at a left tackle, but I do think he could get there. I think at the beginning, it's right tackle all the way, and you can also have that ability to slide inside. So as much as I think offensive tackle is the number 1 priority, cornerback is where the talent lies around where Washington is. And I think, the guys that I love that are going to hopefully be on the, we do have Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Deontay Banks, and a guy that I'm just wrapped up who they're saying the second round. So I'm on the fence right now is Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State, who led the nation, just really slender. So I think that'll turn some teams off. But out of the guys I mentioned, a bunch of those guys are going to be available at 16. And that's why I like the trade back scenario, because I think you can still get one of those guys. Like I said, Deontay Banks, Maryland, is a guy I really like. Kelly Ringo, he slipped to the first, maybe the late first, second round. So I think they have to get a cornerback with that first pick. That's just my thoughts. Because I think when you get to round 2, that's when you're looking at guys more in interior. You have Schmitz from Minnesota, center guy. Guy just put out from TCU, Stephen Avila, center guard. All of those guys are, we know how Ron Rivera loves positional versatility. So I think with those first 2 rounds, whatever order, they're going to have to get a cornerback and offensive line. As far as, are they going to find that left tackle? With Leno Jr., I think that there would have been more talk about a restructuring, something going on. I think they're going to roll with him. So I think left tackle, think of a guy maybe like Jalen Duncan in the 3rd round. I think the 2nd round might be a little early for him, but that 3rd round range, that's a guy that left tackle, athletic, extremely athletic. But I think there's some issues to his game right now that teams aren't confident of drafting him in those first 2 rounds. But I think if you can get those 3 positions in the first 3 rounds, you'd be set up. But again, I like middle linebacker. There's a couple of the guys that I like, Henley from Washington State, Campbell from Iowa. But I think that they're going to pass there. They don't seem to be putting a premium on the position. But overall, those are the positions I like in the first 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah, I completely agree. And looking at this tight end class. Now, I know some people say tight end is a huge need. Some people say that tight end, we don't even need to address it. But what are your thoughts on this tight end class? Me and Kyle and Hall always talk about how interesting we think that this tight end class is.
It is interesting because it's kind of funny to me because I've heard a lot of evaluators say this is one of the best tight end classes they've seen in a while. I think it's a deep class.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be a little trigger shy to, select one of these guys in the first round. We hear about Dalton Kincaid, it's one of the best. Back injury questions. They're saying he's cleared. He's going to be okay. But again, we've seen that really affect a lot of good prospects. But Michael Myers, the other one that they've talking about in the first round from Notre Dame, all around tight end. I would just be to rather see other positions on the board in that top 25 range. I just think that there's higher end talent. Even if you're talking about a 4th cornerback, I think they still have higher value. It's really when you get into that, I think 2nd, 3rd round is where you find great value with tight end. A guy that's really creeping up draft boards, I know, is Luke Musgrave from Oregon State. You know, he's a guy that you can kind of use in that H-back role, flex out, kind of do some interesting things. Sam Laporta from Iowa, they call him Baby Gronk. But of course, the name that everyone's been talking about is Darnell Washington, since he showed those athletic receptions at the combine. He's got a long way to go. I love his size. I love his athleticism. But again, even though I mentioned those first two guys, I don't think the first round is where you go. So it's a deep class. I wouldn't call it the best class I've seen in a while.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different flavors in this tight end class. It seems like there's so many different types of tight ends. But real fast, did you guys see that video of Darnell Washington hitting the sled at the combine?
Oh, yeah.
Michael Mayer and them were all struggling to move it. Everybody was Darnell Washington goes and pushes it 15 yards easy, like it's nothing. That,
that shows up on film.
Yeah, he's a tackle, dude.
Right.
Yeah, sir. I heard somebody say something about like they could see him putting on like bulking up and becoming maybe like a right tackle or left tackle in the future.
Wing tackle. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, if he doesn't pan out a tight end. But jump into the quarterback position. Obviously, we talked about Hendon Hooker from Tennessee visited today, like we talked about earlier. But what's your views on Sam Howell? And say one of these quarterbacks somehow, some way slipped down to 16. Would you draft a quarterback at 16, like say it's like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, or are you comfortable rolling with Sam Howell in 2023?
I think the only way you'd see that if the miracle somehow happens, if Young or the Ohio State kid drops, because I think those are the only two guys that we really should be talking about for first round. But the fact is, there's a need in this league. I think Richardson, teams are going to really bank on his athleticism, his size, and, he's going to get overdrafted. And I think, he'll be probably gone off the top 15. And Levis, I'm hearing that Tampa Bay is just absolutely in love with him. So I think you're going to see 4 quarterbacks go pretty early. So I think Washington is better off rolling with what they have right now. But I love the idea of grabbing a developmental guy, probably having on the practice squad, a guy that I don't know how he's really fallen off the board, but Thompson from UCLA, he's a guy. Dorian Thompson, he's just a shade over 6'2", a little lean, wiry, but I think teams have concern. Is he, one of those guys you're just going to have in a gimmick, RPO straight offense? But I actually like him. I think he showed that he can throw all the throws downfield. He can read the field. He's not a one-read quarterback. So that's a guy I want to see them, develop maybe in the later rounds. Another guy talk about small school from Shepherd is Badgett. He's a guy that I did 17,000 plus career yards, has the ability to scramble. He's similar to Young as far as Alabama. He runs to, create passing lanes downfield. So he's another guy I like. But there's a bunch of guys that are going to be available on that late day 3 range. So I think just from what we're seeing from Ron Rivera, I don't believe everything I hear what he says, but, it's all in the tea leaves. So I think if it doesn't go with Hal, he goes with the Brissett. But I don't think there's any way they go quarterback in the first couple rounds unless, like I said, one of the top 2 falls in. Right. And we know that's not going to happen.
Right. Now, to wrap this up, Adam, I only have a couple more questions for you. But we kind of talked about it with Keaton Mitchell and others and their returning ability. So do you think that Washington should invest in a punt returner specialist in this draft?
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's why running back is perfect, because those guys we talked about. But another guy that's really gone under the radar, unless you watch the prime Deion Sanders show with the Jackson State, was Isaiah Bolden. He's a guy that I sat down with about two weeks ago. He's kind of really gone under the radar. This is a guy that, although he's small school, he transferred from Florida State. And once he went to Jackson State, he just lit it up as far as returning and being a cornerback. He led the nation in 2021, just a shade over 36 yards per return, kick return. Punt returns were a shade over 21 yards, I believe. So this is a guy that you're looking for that cornerback to, on the back end of your team. You think with what I told you, he's a small guy, 6'2", 205, 40 was just a shade of the 4'4", I believe. So that's a guy that you're probably going to see available 5th round, unless the team really jumps up. But I think that 5th round range is where someone grabs him. So you're going to have a couple of those running backs, and, a player like him, will be available late too.
Yeah, now my last question for you, Adam. All right, it's pick 16 is here. Let's just say, realistically speaking, you know what the projection is and what's going to be available at 16. What is your favorite? Right now, you have to pick one player. Tell us why and who.
It's interesting because Joey Porter Jr. was one of the first I evaluated, and I hear the folks talking about the concern about putting him in zone. But the fact of the matter is, Penn State played a ton of zone, but they really, they asked Porter to freelance a little bit, and so he got a little more physical rather than stick out on his route. So he's a guy that I think is certainly the possibility he'll be there. I think that would, I've also talked about Branch from Alabama. I took a lot of slack on Twitter for it, but I talked to a lot of people close to Alabama program, and there was talk about how much, does he love the game.
Yeah.
And that's just something I like to look at, especially if it's not just Twitter rumors, but it's people that I know that don't even actually go on Twitter. I just talked to them and there's just about football and they said that's a concern. And of course his size. So those are two guys that I think will probably be on the board, but that's why I'm just a huge proponent with hopefully they have a scenario where they can trade back. Because I think you can trade back into the 20s and get a guy like Deonte Banks from Maryland, 6'2", 4'36", 4'37", I believe 40, just really athletic. That's a guy that you can really plug in on the outside. But it'll be interesting because Washington does need a slot. Will they trust Fuller to go into slot and, draft an outside? But I'd be shocked if we go into the season, those are our top two right now. I think that they have to go cornerback early. And, some of the guys I talked about, some names I like. But again, I like the, Deonte Banks. So that is someone that I would keep an eye on.
Yeah, Logan Paulson agrees with you, sir. Adam, I can't thank you enough for joining us this evening, sir. Hope you go enjoy your Monday evening and the rest of your week, brother. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on,
guys. Adam.
Of course. Thank
Appreciate
you,
it, man.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, the draft guru, Mr. Adam Aniba.
Love talking to Adam during draft season.
It's always fantastic. And also, I forgot to announce the news that Jeremy Reeves has signed his 1-year restricted free agent contract with the Commanders. Always happy to hear that. Jeremy put out that kind of mysterious tweet a month or so ago. You're hoping that he actually signed it. I'm glad that he did today for workouts that showed up. Glad to see All-Pro Revo back in the building working out with his boys. Now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Felix Trammell. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are y'all, man? How we doing?
Cannot complain.
You get your Twitter back?
No, I did not get my Twitter back, so I had to start a whole new one.
What? Damn, the Kenyan princes got you?
Yeah, he
Somebody got me in the airport getting ready to go on vacation.
Damn.
That's crazy.
Like I was tweeting, it was 2 Sundays ago, so it was the women's NCAA championship.
Right.
So, that was a great game. I wanted to tweet something about it, and next thing I know, I couldn't get in and locked me out, just threw my email away,
What?
Damn.
You are losers, man.
Nothing
else to do?
Fake currency thing that it's just a mess. I feel like it's one of the dumbest things. Like, what's the point of it?
Right. I wonder how much money though per year those guys make, because if it's lucrative,
somebody somewhere
like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody somewhere is making money off of it, but it ain't me.
Right. Felix, I know you just got back from vacation, and it almost feels like a vacation outside right now. It's absolutely perfect outside today, like 60 degrees, sunny. There's wind. Absolutely love it. But Washington had their offseason workouts today, the first day that it came about. Give us some notables of who showed up and who did not.
I think for the fan base, seeing Chase Young there, because I know everyone's like, well, he always worked out by himself. Seeing him there on day one, there's a considerable buy-in. So all the heavy hitters were there. So I think that's what's most exciting. The team wants to be there. So there's almost an unfinished business, or let's work because there's something here in that group. And that was positive to see, just to see the faces that were there. And I think Chase Young being a considerable one, just because he's always kind of worked off to the side until it was required of him, but him being there is significant in my opinion.
And with Montez Sweat, do you think that was more like an excused absence like Chase Young from a year ago?
Yeah, I think his is a little bit different. Montez showed up to a lot of stuff last year. He generally does. But, he's had a lot of things going off the field with him.
Okay.
And so I don't think it's anything serious with Montez. I think it was just to get another, handle some off the field issues, because he's had some issues off the field that have been notably written about. And I think there's more focus on that. That's not a big deal.
I got you. I just wanted to get ahead of it before everyone starts saying that Montez Sweat doesn't want to play for Washington, you know?
It's you know how Twitter turns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At the
definitely.
flip of a switch. So you talked about Chase Young a little bit. I want to gauge how you're feeling about this. What are your thoughts on Chase Young, and do you still have confidence in him? Is the fan base overreacting when they're calling Chase Young a bust?
I think they see other people, like they saw Aiden Hutchinson last year, and
Right.
they see the Bosas, and they're like, well, he ain't doing that. And it's a two-way street. Part of it is scheme. If you actually go and look at the film of some of these guys, they scheme those guys over. It's guys aren't just going one-on-one all day beating guys. They're schemed. Then there's those special times they make a play and do that. But Chase's energy affected that defense. It just does. He is the spark plug. He is the he's the Tesseract. Just go to Marvel. He's what makes he's that energy of the defense. Jonathan Allen's not that type of guy. Deron Payne's not that type of guy. Right. Cameron Curl is not that type of guy. Any of those guys earn it. It's him. And he is the personality. He is the swagger. So when he's around, the defense reacts more. And we always have kind of had, and this is the system, it's kind of a reactionary, bend, don't break, kind of slow squeeze on a game. But he is that initiator. He's that guy. And I think fans are just like, okay, let's perform. We want 25 sacks, and that's great. But system doesn't always call for it. When you have two interior linemen getting 10 sacks apiece, you know, that there's a lot that buys into that. And so I think the fan base needs to take a deep breath. Chase does want to be here. Like, that's a common misnomer. He wants to be here, and he likes the franchise. He likes Coach Rivera. He likes the defensive staff. So just give it time. I mean, he had a COVID year to start. He got injured in the second year. He rehabbed back on the third. Like, just breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah, and he grew up an Eagles fan too, so let's, like, Commanders fans, if he's embracing us, let's not push this guy away, okay?
The other thing to point to, like, to your point, people forget, I think, how big of an impact Chase has. Go back and watch that rookie season. Go back and watch these defenses highlights. Chase Young was this defense when it comes to the heart and soul. I know Jonathan Allen's a leader, like you talked about, but Chase was the spark plug that got him going.
Certain narrative about Chase Young that is attached to him, which I do not understand. But look, it is what it is. I guess it is all in the numbers. Sorry, Hall.
Nah, I mean, look, people get too hyped up on sack numbers, and when you're not putting up the sack numbers, people just automatically think you can't play and you're a bust. So I think he has a bounce back year.
Chill. Yeah.
But flipping to the offensive side of the ball, I think the biggest offseason acquisition this year was getting Eric Bieniemy to come here to coach the offense. What do you think the offense is going to look like, and what do you think the Sam Howell Eric Bieniemy combination is going to do this year, or look like this year?
The offense will be it's going to be different. It's going to be more 2023 NFL offense, which is more the modern league college spread offense that we're used to seeing. And I think the biggest thing we're going to see is an attack plan of the offense. Now, people need to temper expectations. We're not getting Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City's offense right out the gate. That was an offense that's been worked on for years. Alex Smith ran a lot of that offense. Patrick Mahomes walked in. They just added a few screws. That was been in place. So it's going to take a little time. However, we're going to see some innovation. And I think as a fan, that should be exciting, because a lot of stuff was basic in Scott Turner's offense. It was, you could kind of tell what was coming. And if we could tell what was coming,
of an offense.
Right. So we're going to see innovation. I think that's what's going to be exciting, because we have so many young pieces on the offense that let's look modern. Let's try these things. And will they all be successful? No, but we're going to start to see that, okay, Sam Howell is athletic. He can move. De'Ami Brown can run more than just 9 routes. It's our tight ends would be used to catch the ball, not to block. Like, it's just, it's little things like that that should make fans excited. So I think that's the biggest thing. We're just going to see a modern NFL offense, and that should be exciting.
Absolutely, Felix. Absolutely love it. Now, one of the things that Rivera has talked about is running the football heavily, obviously. Bring in Eric Bieniemy from his system. Hall talked about what his influence would be on the offense in general. I want to get more down to the detail. What do you think Eric Bieniemy does for the running backs? Because the running backs were very productive last season, given their situation. AG was banged up. He didn't fumble. He progressed in that mindset. Brian Robinson gets shot, comes back, and still rushes for nearly 600 yards or wherever it was. What do you expect EB to do with these running backs, according to his stats?
Same thing I was speaking of, innovation. I think a lot of those yards, those Gibson and Robinson yards was just the hammer. We're just hammering, we're hammering, which is effective with Brian Robinson because you get to the fourth quarter, you're tired of hitting the man. The man, that's a grown man. So I think we're going to see more innovation out of these running backs and utilization together. And that's something we didn't see. You're going to see Robinson and Gibson together lined up. That's going to be exciting to see because there's so many possibilities because Gibson can catch the ball. Robinson can catch the ball. Gibson can become a lead blocker. They can counter off that. There's just a plethora of options you can do off of a two-back set with a mobile quarterback. And you have two guys a guy in the slot that can move. Now the defense is in limbo. So I think the innovation of the run offense from Eric Bieniemy is what's going to help somebody like Antonio Gibson, who doesn't need to be running A-gap, B-gap runs all the time. And with Robinson, the same 1 yard, 2 yard dives, kind of get him some ingenuity there as well. So I think that's what Eric Bieniemy is going to bring to the running game. It's some things like that. And it's staying true to running the ball, but running it in a different way. And I think that's something we didn't see out of the last offensive system.
Now, Felix, I don't know if you heard about this, but the NFL draft is coming up. Let's say ideal situation, your player's there. Who is your guy? Who are you taking at 16 in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, I'm taking Joey Porter.
Okay.
I'm taking Joey Porter. His cornerback skills fit the defensive scheme.
Right.
It would push Fuller inside, and I think you would have two hallmark corners on the outside. So that would be my ideal. If I could pick who I'd want, that would be a good value pick and a person who fits the mentality of this defense. He looks like he's a Commander's defensive player already. Right. Just the way he carries himself, how he's built. He reminds me of Cameron Curl, a little bit more vocal, but he reminds me of Cameron Curl. He's so fluid, and I think this fluidity would help in coverage. So that would be my pick. I would if he's available when our time is up, I'm running to the podium with that arm.
Yeah, having a vocal guy in the secondary like that could be the missing link there.
Yeah, and
so that was the biggest reason for McCain not playing well, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, with the defense got by the second half of the season, McCain being the slot corner.
Right.
I mean, it got there, and it was viable until you ran into something that you couldn't cover it up. And to be fair, San Francisco did that to a lot of defenses. So let's not just say, oh my God, San Francisco did that to a lot of people.
I meant William Jackson III, my bad, not McCain.
Right. Yeah. McCain actually did that. But yeah, William Jackson was never a fit.
Right.
Just physically in the way he plays. It just wasn't a fit for the system. So I think Joey Porter would be absolutely perfect in this system that we run. And then that would allow everybody to play their true position. And it's not someone playing another position and someone playing another position to cover for that position. Right. And now you got three positions out of whack.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping back to Chase Young real quick. The big topic has been of recently is about his fifth-year option and should the team pick it up or not. Where do you stand on should the team pick it up or not? And where do you stand on his fifth-year option? Should the team pick it up, or do you think that they should go kind of the Daron Payne route where they kind of let him play it out, work for it, and then earn his money.
As a fan, I would want him to do it just so I think doing it takes pressure off of Chase. Yeah. If you say, we're not doing it, go get me 12 sacks. Now you've set an expectation. And let's just say he has 9 sacks, but he didn't get the 12. But did he have a good season? Did he impact games? I think Mike spoke on it best. People love stats, but impact on the field matters. Like, if he's not the one getting the sack, but he's forced a bad throw and it's an interception, he's impacted that play, even though he only gets a QB rush. Like, those things matter. And so to alleviate pressure on him, I would pick it up just to say, we got it. This is your year, ball out. And then you can still extend them before that year. Like, it's not forbidden. So I think I would, from that standpoint, but from a financial standpoint, it might be better just to wait, because if you can do the deal, the long-term deal, you can space the money out better and you can get your other pieces and make sure you have other people's signed and locked in. So that's a two-way street there. But for his personal confidence, I would take it. From a business perspective, I wouldn't. Just so he has a good year, you can extend him and just have your money flow a little bit better when you're working out deals.
I got you. Now, to wrap this up, Felix, I only have a couple more questions for you. But the comms log, the Commanders have come out with their log. They've done it for 2 times now.
They're so good.
Absolutely
too,
incredible, insane footage that you get from it. I love it. I just want to get your reaction to seeing that kind of, I don't know how to say, I'm losing the word on the top of my head, but it was very close. It was very emotional, like just seeing Daron Payne, the access to Daron Payne, and seeing him being able to embrace by the building and everything. What did you think of that for Daron?
It showed what a lot of people on Twitter didn't understand. They loved Daron Payne. There was never a Allen versus Payne thing. That rift that happened on the sideline happens with teammates all the time. I fought plenty of teammates. Now, did I fight them on the sideline of a Sunday night football game? No, I didn't make it that far in life. But those things happen. But I think, and shout out to the Commanders' social media communications department. They have one of the hardest jobs out there.
No.
And so that content is great, because now I think what we're going to see with the regime change is a more transparency, a more connection that we didn't really get with the players that other franchises had. So I liked it. I loved it for Daron, because I think people thought, oh, he's all about the money. And it showed a good side of him. It showed that the team really wanted him. So all the outside banter of, they don't want him, that was never the case. And for Rivera's faults, and he has a lot of faults, this team really buys into him, and he's really turned this roster over to quality guys. And I think that matters to us as fans, because we know when people are going out for checks. We saw the Rams a couple of years ago just load up to get that ring, and then they imploded. And so I think that there's a buy-in there, and with this whole shift of what's going off behind the scenes, we need stuff like that. So I loved it for Payne. I loved it for the team, but really shout out that communications part of the franchise and social media guys. There's some great content in there. There's some talent in there, and I think they're finally going to be able to utilize it in a good way and not putting out fires every 3 seconds.
Absolutely love it.
They've been killing it.
Yeah, the interviews with the players, all of that, it's absolutely phenomenal. Last question for you, yes or no answer. Do you think that Cam Curl gets an extension before this season?
Yes.
My man, that's what I wanted to hear.
And I've said it on here for a few years now. He is what makes the defense good.
Dude.
The games he missed, the games they struggled. And you can go back and look at it. The first 2 games of the season, he wasn't there, and he got hurt near the end. He wasn't in that San Francisco game. He wasn't in the Detroit and Jacksonville game. The defense struggled. He makes that defense go. And so I know they know his value. I know Coach Rivera knows his value. He loves him. Jack Del Rio loves him. They're going to get a deal done because he for all the misses, that's a gem. That is a 7th round gem who's going to be a legit 7-8 year starter in this league.
Yep. My man, Felix. You see what
100%.
I say. I really do appreciate your time. I know you got stuck in traffic. I really appreciate you for still coming on and joining us afterwards. We all know that we hate traffic and we're all in a bad mood afterwards, but it didn't seem that way with you, Felix. I can't thank you enough for joining us this evening, brother. Hope you have a good night and enjoy the rest of your week, man.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thank you,
I'm
Felix.
sure.
Have a good
Appreciate
night,
it,
brother.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Felix Trammell. Always enjoy talking to Felix.
Nobody gets you pumped up about the team quite like Felix does. Every time we talk to him, I walk away feeling like, you know what, everything's gonna be all right.
We're gonna win 12 games coming up.
Shit, right. Now let's move on to our fan questions to wrap up this episode, boys. And this first question is submitted by the Colonel. Today, Rico Street Scores was enthusiastic about the Commanders in free agency. He believes we filled positions of need at O-line and cornerback with Wiley, Gates, and Dantzler, and we feel we could go for positions of want instead of need in the draft. Do you share his enthusiasm, or do you feel we need serious help at cornerback and O-line?
That's the thing. Like addressing those positions the way that they did, I still think cornerback they could work on, but like O-line, like now you look at it, it's not like you have to take O-line at 16, you have to take it in the first 2 rounds. Like you can kind of get away from it. At first, dude, we were doing mock drafts, it was like, we're going to go offensive tackle round 1, we're going to go center in round 3, we're going to go another guard, we're going to try to load up. But now you kind of got these versatile pieces with Andrew Wiley, who can play tackle, and if you need him to, I mean, if it doesn't work out at tackle, you can kick him inside to guard. Gates, who can play center, he can play guard. So that kind of filled a lot with the O-line. Cornerback, I'm still not as sold on. I do think that they need to address cornerback early, but I do like it's definitely given them more flexibility and options, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, Colonel. I agree with Street Scores. The way that they've set up their offseason is to the point where they can go at any position of those needs, you could say, at any point in time. And that's the genius of it, is where it's not like you're going actually best player available, but you have a collection of needs that you have, but that position allows you to be flexible with the draft order. Based on what has come up, you can either take that corner in round 1, or the corner's kind of easing off in round 1, you can maybe take that tackle because if they're going hard. So either way, you can kind of maneuver yourself around, and I do share the enthusiasm as Street Scores about this team. It's really hard to pinpoint their biggest weaknesses, to be perfectly honest. I know we have explanations, and us being fans, it's hard to say that, but they've done a good job of building this team with youth and experience, and it's really good combination of both. And now you're at a point where you're just going to get better. And now you're playing with house money, if you understand what I'm saying. You're just drafting to say, where can we get better? And that is a great position to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I agree with Street Scores. Like the acquisitions. I think that if I was, I guess the GM, if I was Mike Mayhew, I would say cornerback is a little bit more pressing need, just because you're going to have guys coming back off injuries. Like, we haven't heard anything about Chase Rouillet. That could be a good thing, meaning like, okay, we looked at his knee, we got him checked out, he's on schedule, he's making his way back to maybe get on the field, or it could be a bad thing where they're like,
Mayhew did talk about him, and
I know, I remember his quote. He said, "Yeah, he's on the roster," but that was before they had an actual
That's true. That's a good point.
They were looking at his knee. I think he said they were looking at his knee the next couple of days from that interview. So, like I said, not hearing anything could be a good thing because they're like, okay, he's on schedule, he's on track. We think he can bounce back and be 80% of the player he was, or it could be a bad thing where it's like, we don't really want to put his business out there. Let's see what we do in the draft before we make a decision on him. So, I think that Chase Rouillet is kind of the swing factor in this, but like I said, if I was Mayhew, I would think the cornerback is the position that needs a little bit more depth to it. I like Dantzler, but is he going to be a starter, rotational guy, special teams guy? We don't know yet. So I would go with and seeing depending on how the board shakes out in the draft, there might be a run on lineman, maybe a guy like Witherspoon or Gonzalez somehow get to you at 16. Or there might be a run on cornerbacks, and then next thing you know, you're getting the second, maybe third best lineman in this draft. So, either way they go, they definitely put themselves in a great position at 16. Or you trade back, acquire more picks, and you're still in a great position. So they've definitely set themselves up pretty good for the draft in a couple weeks.
Yeah, swing starter, just like you on the weekends, right, Hall? Now this
Oh, damn. Did you just go Hall?
I know we never do that. We never do that.
I know.
It's because Hall is too cool. Like
Because it's
like,
racist. That's
because
why.
No,
yeah,
it's
well,
like no.
and-
Even in our group of friends, like even in our group chat that we have, like nobody makes jokes at Hall. Like it's just
Right.
it's crazy.
I
It's
know.
just
You know, it's
because
funny. Someone, I forget who it was. They said that the other day. Or like, dog, why does like no one ever like try to fry you or nothing like that? I was like, I don't know.
dude,
Because
it's
I'm
crazy. He's
unfriable.
too cool. Too cool.
Yeah,
That's
he
how it
can't-
is, honestly.
You can't know. That's because he doesn't look like he's hiding secrets like you.
It's
do,
because I'm
so.
glue. Whenever you say bounces off me and it goes back to you, or
Yeah,
rubber. You know what I
that's
mean?
true.
One of those two.
Sure,
It's
man.
one of those. Yeah, I was like,
The
glue.
next question from the Colonel, he said, the Colonel says, Kyle, please elaborate on your interview this week regarding the possibility of us having the best coaching staff in the NFL right now. He's referring to, I was on with 910 The Fan Richmond with Adam Epstein, obviously, a.k.a. AWOD, talking about the new ownership change and asked what I felt of Ron Rivera and company with this new ownership change. And I felt, Reed, you were the first one to say this, that you felt that this coaching staff was the best in the NFL. And I think there's a lot to say to that. Usually, when an offensive coordinator leaves a very good situation, a championship leaving situation, we've seen this from guys that just sniff Sean McVay's jockstrap, that they immediately get jobs in the NFL, right?
Right.
Well, Eric Bieniemy has been doing this consistently for a very long time. This isn't just a one-year wonder. He has the experience to prove that. And he's coming from a championship winning team, coming here with the offensive system and weapons that we have that fit what he likes to do in running the football and in his formations and everything like that, coupled with Jack Del Rio, who has a top 10 defense. As much as we want to complain about Jack Del Rio, he is a very good defensive coordinator. He did a good job last season, combined with Ron Rivera overseeing it all with the character, the kind of personal connection with players. I think that is the perfect situation for any football team right now in the NFL, and I'm very confident that the Commanders have the best coaching staff in the NFL. That's just my opinion.
just in terms of like you talked about the coordinators, like I don't even think it's really that close. Jack Del Rio is a borderline Hall of Fame defensive coordinator, and that's, to be completely honest with you, Jack Del Rio. There's a reason why he's been a head coach twice in the NFL. Jack Del Rio is a very good coordinator. Look at what he's done with a lot of these teams, defenses.
Where were you 2 years ago on January 6th?
Yeah, that's where were you? And also, Kyle, did you forget where you were on 9/11? Because no, but you should never forget. And Eric Bieniemy, of course, just coming off a Super Bowl, he's been in the head coaching run for the last few years. Is Ron Rivera the best head coach? No, but is he the best head coach for us right now at this moment? Yes, I still think that he is, because I think that the players respect him, the players buy into what he's saying, and the players trust him. So I don't think you can get better than this coaching staff at the moment.
Absolutely agree. Now let's move on to our next fan question. This is submitted by Tim Towner in the Discord chat server. Thank you, Tim. He asks, will all the chatter regarding the tight end room, do you think EB will switch things up and keep a fullback this year?
I would say no, because I feel like they got guys that can fill the fullback role. Like John Bates is known for his blocking. I feel like he kind of like line up in the backfield, kind of flex him out, kind of that fullback position. Yeah, Brian Robinson, obviously he's a running back, but he's the size of a fullback. So if you need like a lead blocker for, maybe they want to put Curtis Samuel in the backfield or AG or something like that, switch up the formations. But I just feel like even though like Baltimore is like one of the last teams to have a fullback, a couple other teams here and there have fullbacks, I just feel like it's such like a 90s like position. Like, but yeah.
Mike Allstott's not walking through that door, brother.
I do think that they'll keep a fullback this year. If you go back and look at Eric Bieniemy's offense with Kansas City, they utilized a fullback. A lot of the 22 personnel, 2 wide receivers, 2 backs, and then 1 wide receiver. They used a lot of that. And I don't want Eric Bieniemy coming in here saying, I have to make do with what I have because this is the only thing that's going on. I want Eric Bieniemy to be able to come in and say, I want to adapt this in order to make it work. I don't want him to feel like he has to make whatever happens, because we saw last year how that can happen. So I'm not going to say he shouldn't go out and get a fullback. If that's what's going to help this run game, if that's going to help you confuse defenses, then hell yeah, let's bring in a fullback. I'm all good with that. I know Tim Towner's huge on Hunter Lemke, the fullback from North Dakota State.
Shout out Tim Towner.
Very, very good player, obviously, and you could add him in here and it would help a lot. But I could also see the vice versa of it, where John Bates is easily capable of being a fullback for you. Obviously, he's very tall, but he has the receiving skills to be able to run out of the backfield, catch the football, but he's also a blocker like a lineman, and that's exactly what you want out of a lead blocker, which our tight ends did a heck of a lot last year, but that would not surprise me. I think if Eric Bieniemy wanted to bring in a fullback, I would wholeheartedly support it.
Oh yeah, you can do so much with fullbacks. They're cool. Let's make fullbacks great again.
Let's make fullbacks great. Please stop.
Yeah.
Now, next question from Tim.
A lot of fullbacks.
What are you most interested in hearing out of this week's off-season workouts, Hall?
Since I can't really do anything other than like just
was there another Bigfoot signing? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I just want to hear. Pretty much, I just want to see. Like, I know there was a picture earlier of Chase. He didn't have the brace on, so I just want to see reports on how he's out there moving around, how he's looking, how he's. I think Sam Howell was throwing the ball around. So, like I said, you can't really do much in this first phase of the workouts these first couple of weeks. But basically, I just want to see like how the team camaraderie is, how the atmosphere is in the building and on the field, in the meeting rooms, and I want to get an update on how Chase is looking and moving around without the brace.
I want to see the kind of news. I want to see Nick Gates is fully good to go after everything that he's going on. I want to see how Tyler's doing, if he's been okay and been accepted in order to start playing again and actually competing. I think he has a chance to do very well. Those are some of the bigger things. Obviously, Chase Young, I feel like at this point they are going to pick up the fifth-year option. I know that is the most underlying factor, but I think we're all going to say it. It's probably the ownership stake. I don't want to spend any time on here talking about any suit and tie at any point in time, but obviously that is another thing that could happen before the draft that we would all be very excited for.
Yeah, man, they should pick it up. Just Chase Young, just think about it. Chase Young has so much pressure on him since he came into the league. It's different than some of these guys. He was supposed to be the savior. He was supposed to be this huge dude, and then he got injured. Now everybody's calling him a bust. It's like, just don't put this thing on him where it's like, now you got to play for a contract, my guy. Like, just let him breathe a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You'll get the best out of him. But what am I excited to see? I'm excited to see how Sam Howell moves around with that big old hog that he's got.
Somebody commented on the Commanders video. It was like that Sam Howell looked like the little kid from Up. I was like, that's
he kind of does. Yeah, they have the same face shape.
It does. Yeah, he definitely needs a haircut or something.
And imagine if the kid from Up talked like Sam Howell.
Dude, you know what Sam Howell needs to get?
The league done messed up, brother.
Sam Howell needs to get those, like, side on, like
they get the boy back together. All right, Sam.
All right, Sam. Now let's move on to our next fan questions submitted by Orange Crush 92 in the Discord. Thank you, Orange Crush. What techniques or schemes involving O-line does Bieniemy employ in his offense? How will Bieniemy's schemes help AG and B-Rob become an elite running force?
I thought Reed was gonna go. My bad. I think they use like a lot of they don't use like zone blocking scheme, like zone gap blocking schemes, which for a guy like AG, it's gonna get him out into the perimeter. It's gonna make a little bit easier for him to clear for him to be able to read the holes, kind of like pick which hole he's want to get into, cut back lanes and whatnot like that. So I think that the zone blocking scheme is what Bieniemy's going to entail into the line.
I think he's going to be doing a lot of the trap blocks, a lot of the pull blocks, where you see, let's say, a right guard moving to the left side over the left tackle in order to do his backside lanes, or the trap blocks where you're running to the left, you pull that guard to the left to act as the lead blocker on the outside seal. You could see that a lot when Kansas City is playing on offense. It's a lot of misdirection. What a lot of their running game is geared towards is manipulating the linebackers, making the linebackers believe that they are fitting a certain run in order to get them unfit for where they really want to run the football, if that makes sense. So they do the trap block, so the running back steps right in order to make the linebackers go left, and then he kicks back to opposite side just to get them off their line, just to feel. And that's exactly what Washington has been missing from the offensive coordinator position, because Scott Turner would just call play to call play, where Eric Bieniemy trying to screw with you. He's trying to mind F you. And that's the kind of OC that can do damage with these type of backs like AG, like B-Rob. And the other aspect of it is he loves to do the jet sweeps. And with Curtis Samuel, we know very well he loves to be able to use in that motion aspect. And at any point in time, a defense has to be concerned with Curtis Samuel taking that ball and possibly taking it to the house. That alone is going to make AG and B-Rob's jobs easier. Eric Bieniemy is going to confuse the linebackers. They're not going to be keying in on the running backs anymore. They're going to have to think a lot more, which gives more space, more time for AG and B-Rob to get upfield. And I think that EB him being a former running back, obviously in itself is going to help the running backs, but I feel like him as he calls offense is going to gear a lot towards the running backs and make their jobs a lot easier.
Right. And I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, because we haven't really seen Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator technically, like we haven't seen his version of an offense, but if it looks anything similar to Andy Reid's offense, they run a lot of stacked formations, a lot of high-low concepts, and they seem to have a lot of counters, right? Like we always talk about how Eric Bieniemy should be good at chess. Andy Reid is a master at figuring out what the defense is going to do and countering them. If the offense is running the ball a lot, they're going to go do whatever they can do to put up as many points as possible in the short time that they have it. They're just super smart. So I would expect something like that. I mean, he's learned from Andy Reid for so long, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what type of run blocking scheme that he uses. I haven't looked into that yet because I'm a peasant.
Like when you watched our games last season, what you would see a lot is when they would run the football, you'd see a big pileup of bodies that B-Rob or AG would run into the back of, right? Eric Bieniemy's offense is more so geared to manipulating the defense in order to create big pockets of space where they want to run to. And that's why it puts AG and B-Rob in such a great position, especially AG with his speed being a former wide receiver, being in space, that's where he's at his best. So I feel like AG is really going to be maximized with EB. I know everyone keeps saying that EB probably wants to walk away from AG. I think AG is very excited to be able to work with Eric at this moment in time.
Just EB being a former running back and having as much success as he did in college, that's got to bode well for a running game. He knows what running backs like.
Right. Now, the next question from Orange Crush 92.
He knows what boys like, too.
Reed, who's the unexpected player flying up draft boards right now?
The unexpected player? So if you asked me this during the bowl game, not during the bowl games, but during like the East-West Shrine Bowl and all that stuff, Senior Bowl, I would have said Darius Rush. He's kind of fallen off a little bit slightly, but I guess you kind of just got to go with like overall through the entire process. Deonte Banks, I mean, going from like a day 2 pick to now like a guaranteed first round pick because he's like the most athletic cornerback of all time. Just watching the way he's flown up boards has been very impressive.
I do think Emmanuel Forbes, I think, is making a name for himself right now. Sorry, Hall. I knew you. I should have known. I'll change up. I'll say Zach Kuntz.
No, you're good. I got someone else.
I'll say Zach Kuntz. A couple months ago, like in January, February, when I would start doing mocks, you would see Zach Kuntz getting drafted in the 6th, 7th round, even being undrafted at times. Now you're seeing him in the 4th round. And so I think
you're seeing him earlier than that now.
A lot of it has been said for what he did at the combine, but even before he did the combine, I was telling you guys on film, this kid is good, 6'8". He can separate, and he obviously has to work on his blocking, but he has the skills to translate to the NFL. So if I can't go with Emmanuel Forbes, I'll say what's his Zach Kuntz.
I was just gonna say Emmanuel Forbes just because I feel like a lot of people had like a early 2nd round grade on him going into the process. Then he has the combine. People get him in the meetings. They pick his brain, see how smart he is, and just put on the film, and you'll see that he's a playmaker. So I definitely think that he's going to go like middle back end to like the back end of like the 1st round, like pick like 27 to 30 or like 24, 25-ish towards the end, somewhere around there.
I will say this.
Hearing Fowler say that Carolina has him as the number 2 cornerback on their board, that's
what I was saying. If they were to take Emmanuel Forbes at 16, I'm not gonna lie to you, I would not be upset.
I wouldn't be mad.
I wouldn't be upset at all.
Dude, he's a ball hawk.
Yeah. Honestly, he's the next closest to Christian Gonzalez and being the lockdown corner that you're gonna get in this draft. No disrespect to Devin Witherspoon, love the guy. Now, next question, Discord. Big Tony Shivers read. Say it does work out to land Darnell Wright to start at right tackle. How would you plug in the rest of the O-line?
Ooh, see that what I would personally do if we got a Darnell Wright, I would be like, all right, we're gonna have obviously the what's his face at left tackle. Sorry, why can't I remember your name?
Andrew Wiley.
Average. No. Charles Leno. Thank you. There you go.
How do you forget Leno's name, bro?
Because he's just not important to me because he gets beat by Kayvon Thibodeau. No, he's solid. He's smart. He's a nice guy. I would probably go Charles Leno, left tackle, obviously, and then I would kick Andrew Wiley inside to left guard. Then if Rouillet's healthy, I would start Rouillet at center. I want to see Cosme at right guard with a full offseason, that being his full position, and then Darnell Wright at right tackle. Because I think Darnell Wright, dude, I finished watching most of this past season today. He's a dog. Darnell Wright, man. If you light a fire under him, man, Kyle's been right. The guy fucks.
Yeah, and he played left tackle for 13 games in 2021, played right tackle, obviously, in 2020, this past season, and did very well at that. But I would love to leave Darnell Wright at right tackle. It's what he did well and progressed at in the college. I don't want to force him to move to left tackle. I want to stay at right tackle. Have Leno stay at left tackle. I would move Cosme to left guard. Cosme played left tackle in college. I think he might have a natural feeling to that left side. So I feel like having him at left guard would help a lot. And then I'd have Tyler Larson starting at center. I think that he's earned it at this point. I think that he would win in the competition. And then obviously right guard, I would have Andrew Wiley with Darnell Wright. And I think that you feel damn good about that offensive line after that, in my personal opinion. Now, the next question that we have, this one is from... I can't believe I lost it. Oh, my goodness. Of course I lost the pins.
What is going on with us today?
I don't know. I really don't know. This is from the Joker. Curious to hear your all thoughts on how much rope does Ron Rivera give Hal if results are not meeting the expectations in games or record?
I would say the fan in me wants to say the whole season because I want to see, like, obviously I've said this multiple times. Everyone knows this if you, like, watch football, follow football. It takes about 4 games of, like, game film for them to pick up on your tendencies as a quarterback. Defensive coordinators start to, like, figure out what you like to do best, take it away from you, how you're going to counter that. So I don't want to see Sam Howell out there for the first 5-6 games. Maybe he struggles in 3 of those games, half those games. Let's call it half those games out of the 6. 3 of those games he struggles. 3 of the games, 2 of the games he plays pretty good. 1 of the games he's like, meh. But they end up with a 1-5 record at that point, and they're at the bottom of the division. Ron Rivera's like, I don't want to get fired midseason. I'm just kind of scrambling, and it goes to Brissett. I want to see them stick with Hal, see if Hal can work his way through it, figure it out, and that's how you figure out if you got a franchise quarterback or not. So the fan in me wants to see him play it out pretty much the whole season unless they're just completely out of it. But even then, I want to see him get the reps because he needs rep if he's going to be the guy.
Right.
But the football, like, kind of just like knowing how these things go, type of things, like if you've seen it play out before, if they get to 1-5, 1-6, and Sam Howell's not playing good, Rivera's going to go into conservation mode, and he's going to probably put Brissett in there because he wants to finish the season out, or even longer than that. So there's my answer.
Yeah, for me, Joker, it's a great question, by the way. I absolutely love this. Do you remember those ropes that they had in the gym in like school? You know, they went all the way up to the ceiling, and you had to climb up. You know what I'm talking about? Kind of like when I get out of the shower. That kind of thing. That's how long of a rope Ron Rivera is going to give Sam Howell. And the reason why I say that is I don't think Ron Rivera is going to make that decision. I think Ron Rivera is going to allow Eric Bieniemy to have control over the offense and say, Eric, go with what you want. Go with what you think is best for everybody. If you want to make the move to Jacoby, then fine. Based on how Sam's doing, that's fine. But he's not going to supersede Eric Bieniemy at any point in time with this offense. I think we learned that with Scott Turner. I think that it was kind of pushed away a little bit. And Ron Rivera is saying, I'm not going to touch that anymore. I want Eric Bieniemy to take the helm and let his expertise run that side of the football. I'm just here overseeing it and making sure everything is okay. So I think the rope is very, very, very long, and it's not up to Ron Rivera. So it's a trick question, Joker.
Yeah, I would hope that it's a long rope because, like you guys both said, especially Hall, like I want to see what we have in Sam Howell. I want to see if he's struggling, him bounce back and have him string together a few games and figure things out. You want to see that because you want to see if we do have to end up starting over at that quarterback position or if we have somebody that we can build around here. So I would hope it's long, and I would imagine it could be. But, you know, the worst thing that could happen would be Sam Howell's not playing terribly well. He's playing average, but we're middle of the pack. And then they're like, all right, well, we got to make a change now. Like and it would just, you know, it would suck. So.
Yep. Now let's go to rapid fire. This is our Twitter questions that were submitted. I know we're up against it right now, but I want to make sure to give the respect of everybody who submitted. Douche Alicious asks, Hall, Mr. Young has something to prove, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. If you scroll down my Twitter feed, you'll see a couple days ago I put out the reasons to not give up on Chase Young. Check it out. Great read.
Absolutely great read. Now this next question, Reed. I'm convinced, this is from Tony Franchise on Twitter. I'm convinced this fan base doesn't deserve nice things. Why are so many people calling to trade away Chase Young?
Because they are dumb. No, because they get caught up in it, man. Like I've talked about, it was a perfect lightning storm for Chase Young. It was having unreal expectations, winning a defensive rookie of the year, which was very good, then having a little bit of a sophomore slump, which was expected, then having a massive injury, and then just coming back last year. So the fans think that he hasn't been who he should be, but he's going to get there. He'll be there. But no, we do not deserve nice things at all.
And now this next question from Scoot. How much say does EB have in this draft? I think the real EB has a huge say in this draft. You saw him at the Tennessee Pro Day standing behind Darnell Wright, watching him go. He's going to be very involved, and like I talked about before with Ron Rivera, not stepping on the toes of his offensive coordinators. He oversees them, he gives them insight, but he allows them to have the decision and control over it. And so for that, I think that EB is going to have a major say in this, because Ron Rivera, it's almost the honeymoon phase, and it's like, we got to get my boys set up for success this season. So he's going to have a lot of say into who these draft picks are, in my personal opinion. Now, this next question, this is from District Sports Talk. Thank you, sir. What changes are you expecting going from a Scott Turner to an Eric Bieniemy offense, Reed?
I'm expecting. So, Scott Turner, it always seemed like he just never strayed from his game plan. It was like, this was a preconceived thing and we're going to ride it out, whether it worked or not. Sometimes it worked, like against the Eagles when we beat them for the first time. Most of the time it didn't work out. With Eric Bieniemy, you're going to see it different. He's going to react to what the defense is doing. He's going to react to different formations, to what they've been doing. So it should be a lot better, and definitely utilize his player strengths and his natural ability to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, but the biggest difference between the two is that, Scott Turner called a very boring game plan. Let's be perfectly honest with it. Eric Bieniemy is going to be much more exciting. We talked about the trap, the kind of back alleyways and the jet sweeps. Love being able to have the exciting aspect of the games going to the weaknesses of the defense. You're going to see electricity, explosion, a lot more movement. It's not going to be as boring anymore.
I think it's like you talked about earlier. It's going to be some misdirection. It's going to be some quick game. The screen game is going to get involved. You're going to see the running backs out to get involved in the passing game a little bit more, or a lot more, I should say. And the biggest thing of all, I think you're going to see, is going to be an offense that's able to adapt throughout the game. Not just like you said, okay, this is the game plan, guys. We're going to run this play, then this play, this play. You're going to see you see people talk about you need to call a play for a reason. Like, you're calling this play to set this other play up in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left in the game. So I think with Scott Turner, it was more of just like, I'm going to call this one, and then I'm going to call this one. There was no flow to it. I think you're going to see a flow and an adaptability with this offense that we have not seen in a while.
Yeah, real quick, just briefly, this question just got submitted by Commander Viscount. I appreciate you, sir. Sell out this weekend for the DC Defenders. Does this mean with success the fans will flock back to the Commanders with little success?
I just think the ownership change is going to bring out the crowds for the first couple of weeks, and if they're playing well, I think it'll keep expanding and building on that. But it's really just going to come down to how they're playing the first quarter of the season. If it's another slow start to the season, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, here we go again. Well, Dan's gone. Let's just wait for next season when they blow everyone out. But if they start off fast and fairly relevant and fairly good, and Sam Howell's playing good, the defense is out there flying around, I think it's going to bring more and more people out. And then eventually, if they get into the playoffs and they keep building on the success, I think we'll be back.
I don't think they're going to flock back by any stretch. I think that in D.C., there is a certain Marine base that's there, and there is a reason why you don't hear who started the beer snake. And there's a legendary post about how the Marines went to Iceland for a weekend and drank all the beer in the entire country. There's a reason why it's getting the attention that it's getting. It's because it's in D.C. There's things around it that is there. PG, there's nothing really much there. That's what you're going to get. If you want to have this sort of reaction like the D.C. Defenders are having, you got to go back down to D.C. That's where the military is. That's where those boys are. If you want to have a good time, that's where you go. If you want to...
What do you mean by those boys?
If you want to keep it the way it is, stay in PG.
Yeah, well...
What do you mean by stay in PG? Keep the way it is for them boys.
Yeah, for the boys. The boys out there, them boys.
I'm the op, bro.
I think, no doubt, for sure. Stop capping, Kyle.
No, you're king op, bro.
I am king op. I'm
king op.
You're post op. I think that I think for long term success for sure having the stadium in DC. But early on, man, in the season, these you're gonna get the January 6 boys all fired when Stan Snyder's gone, man. They're gonna take over that stadium, and it's gonna be loud. And that's the last thing.
I'm surprised the Fruity and Slip didn't come through there and you said we.
Yeah. You don't want to see them boys fired up. You don't want to. It's not good. But it'll be good for
All right, guys. That's going to wrap us up for this
January
episode.
6th boy.
I can't thank you guys enough for joining us. This has been a blast to be able to talk some football. Again, we're doing our last mock draft on Thursday. So you want to be involved, you want to make one of the selections, please DM us on social media, either on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Find us at the Burgundy Zone. Just DM us, and we'll get it coordinated with you. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm not one of the January 6th boys.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, I just want to say, not me. Was not there. Don't support it at all.
Highly unlike it. All right, everybody. We'll see you later on Thursday. Washington
Kyle
football.
Kyle was there. Kyle was there. FBI.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!